I noticed after continued practice in different situations, a form of economics that requires the practitioner to be objective and unbiased. And so that means taking yourself away from what it is you're actually interested in and to stand outside as an observer. And if you do that, even the most pressing, dramatic, urgent issues become you become numb to them.
Hi.
Hi, perfect.
Let's talk.
Should I sit here?
Julie,
Perfect.
after several years of endeavor, you've been awarded a fellowship researcher at Sommige Society just a few days ago. I would like to hear from you, and I'm curious to know how you describe your body of research, the grounds that you've covered.
I guess my question became, why is economics so abstracted from everyday economic life? And what would it mean to make economic thinking and practice more responsive? What I discovered was, that practicing economics in that abstract way led to very standardized and homogenized solutions. So you end up with a kind of standard economic model which you apply to many different contexts. So instead of doing that, I said, well, what if we actually immerse within the relationships that is what economies are actually made up of, many different types of relationships. So I said, okay, so let's immerse within what's actually happening rather than abstracting from. And I took many, many false moves in doing that. I was so embedded. That false move helped me to understand many branches of economics that are alternative, but they weren't addressing the issue of detachment that I was interested in. So the catalyst to it was actually a quite strong nature-based experience that helped me to make the shift towards immersing within experience. I went out on a sailing trip with friends, and I'm a bit nervous about the sea and the power of the sea. I have huge admiration and respect, and it all turned out to be much rougher than we thought it was going to be. And what I noticed was that I had to stop thinking about stuff and actually immerse within, my senses became completely alert. I could feel the rocking of the boat, I could hear the waves, and over hours of this really stretched, taut being with what was happening, I began to feel that the ocean wasn't just outside me, it was kind of rolling inside me, and that the boundaries between me and the ocean, the wind and the boat, and my companions somehow seemed to become more porous and break down, and we seemed to be acting as one. There was something about agency, like to have an intention to sail the boat from A to B, but in the actual practice of doing that, it isn't just me, navigating and having that intention. That agency is shared and negotiated by all the players, not just my human friends, but the wind and the boat. And so that very simple nature-based experience led me to ask, well, what would it be like to navigate economics as if it was an ocean journey? What would it be like to become really responsive to what's actually happening in the moment, rather than sitting back and thinking about things through abstract economic models? And so that's what I began to practice. Where it led me, that an entangled approach is not better than a more objective approach, or what I call a relational approach. What it showed me was that all of those approaches are important, but how they're sequenced together is the issue. So what generally happens in economics is that we start with models, and we start with the world as it is already, as we can see it, as it is already manifest. But working with a relational perspective enables you to move before the world is already formed. It's almost like you're shaping it, whereas most economic approaches work with the already formed world. And so it's much more difficult to manifest change if things are already formed. But this is working in the more nebulous, unseen world of forming processes. So that's why my work is much more relational rather than just measuring gross national product or the formed world. But what happened during the PhD was that I learnt to think, not abstractly, but learnt to think within experience. So when you're working, like, say with the navigating the ocean example, what happened there was that ideas kind of emerged out of that experience. So I began to see, oh, actually, our boundaries are not fixed. That the agency I have is not something I own, it's just distributed in the field. So those ideas arose out of intense experience. And it's a different way of thinking when thinking arises out of experience rather than thinking first and then applying it to experience. I think that the work that I do fits very well with academia. It's not like... And I used to feel that I wanted to work more practically than in academia, but I think through this work I've managed to see the value of both, actually, because it has been an extremely disciplined approach to thinking differently. So there's been quite a lot of discipline, which I think the academic criteria, if you like, kept me on track with that. So yeah, I don't regret it. It was quite hard work though.
Thank you for giving a flavor of your work in this very specific way. Thank you.